Oh, this is too good. Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. The late 90s into the early 2000s was the birth of the corporate signature guitars. From the original Gibson signature Gibson Les Paul, to Donzi speedboats, Playboy Bunny, Fruit of the Loom underwear, Lexus Pauls, Zippo lighter guitars, or any of these other ones. While a lot of those were just one-offs, one theme has stayed the longest: NASCAR guitars. Perhaps the coolest one is the actual Racecar car guitar. I still very much enjoy owning 3 of those things. Still looking for the Jimmy Dean sausage version though. But there were different levels of the NASCAR guitars. You had just the regular production ones like the Richard Petty model as seen here, Dale Earnhardt Jr., or perhaps you prefer this one. But then there were also Sam Bass painted Les Paul Studios that were given away as like a minor prize. Whereas other really souped up big race winners might get Les Paul standards. Some of them meeting an unfortunate fate after being awarded. I ironically love my Racecar Gibson, but this trophy guitar from the Pepsi 100 that took place on March 22nd, 2008 is another one I would have loved to have owned. Look at this thing. So you might be telling yourself right now, okay, Trogly, I'm looking at it. Why on earth do you like this thing? It's just a NASCAR collection piece. Surely there's no redeeming factors here. My friends, it's the ultimate meme guitar. Hey man, we heard you like Les Paul, so we put a Les Paul on your Les Paul that has a Les Paul on the Les Paul that has a Les Paul on the... And it just keeps going forever. It's like one of those weird kaleidoscope infinity mirror type things. It's just hilarious to me. So I had to save this one to share with everybody. Because it's not even the fact that it's a Les Paul on the Les Paul, it's the exact same guitar. It's literally everything. The race car driver, the cars, the logos. It's so ridiculous. You can't help but love it. Otherwise, I mean, you just get Nashville Speedway, Sam Bass signature on there, Pepsi 300 Nashville. You got your date, which is always nice, but this was given to the winner of that particular race. And then apparently inevitably sold it for some money. I mean, it's kind of a cool trophy piece, but unfortunately, since this is a graphic that's placed on the guitar and then lacquer sprayed over top of it, it gets the super finish checking going on. The wood moves, but the graphic doesn't, so it's just going to continue to crack all over it, just like my race cars, or like the Union Jack Explorer, where they just put tape over it essentially. But outside of the goofiness of a Les Paul on a Les Paul on a Les Paul, what makes this one kind of special is it looks like it's a Les Paul custom, whereas most of the other ones were just standards. Our headstock has the multiply binding. Now we don't have a giant custom emblem on it, so that's why it's custom with an asterisk by it. But replacing that is Nashville Super Speedway and Sam Bass's logo. The 8 right here with 5 digits in total tells us it's a 2008 model, but it's got the ebony fretboard with the mother of pearl block inlays, and then the neck pickup also has some cool custom engraving to it. But the side profile shot shows it does not have back binding, but it does have cool little race cars on the side. I like that. It's cheesy enough that it works, and you don't see it in most photo angles. But the back of the body is also just black. Feel like we need one more race car or Les Paul for good measure, but okay. This was such a cool piece, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not buying it, because this was initially listed for like $5,500, which trust me guys, the NASCAR guitars, unless they're the custom shop specific runs, they usually have a very, very limited market. Now these trophy pieces, they're more desirable than those studios, but they're still going to be relatively hard to sell. So after it got relisted at $3,200, it shortly disappeared after that. Somebody else added this one to their collection instead. Maybe I'll catch it on the rebound one day. Next up, we've got some interesting ones from the Music Zoo. Have you ever seen this combination before? I know in the Queen of Clean episode, we saw a 3P90 Les Paul custom, and the whole triple humbucker's pretty common because of the whole Jimmy Page vibes, and the whole late 50s in general. But have you ever seen triple Mini-Humbuckers on a custom? Actually, scratch that. Have you ever even seen just 2 Mini-Humbuckers in a custom? I haven't. Although I suppose you might be able to get away with it on an original Alnico 5 staple pickup version. But on top of this, this is a specific year reissue because we've got the ABR1 bridge, we've got the witch hat style knobs. Reading the description, it's a 1957 Les Paul. So what that should mean automatically in your head is you no longer have a maple top, it's mahogany. But it definitely has some playwear here. And here's what I hate about VOS finishes. Once you start to get some picking scratches on them, you just have to live with it, because if you polish it, you remove the VOS and then it looks even worse. Sometimes. And of course you get your really cool plastics, including your vintage style truss rod cover and a straight up ebony fretboard. Better check the year. Uh-oh. CME exclusive being sold at Music Zoo. What's going on there? This one's from 2019. But that one sold rather quickly for $5,700. But if you're sad that you missed that, apparently Mother Road Music has one of these for sale right now at $6,000. However, it appears to be the exact same guitar, just by a different dealer. So you can catch it on the rebound if you're interested. So if regular humbuckers in a 3-pickup configuration in the middle position sounds kind of like a Stratocaster, if you need an example of that, here's a brief one from a Les Paul Artisan. I'm really curious what 2 Mini-Humbuckers in that exact same wiring configuration would sound like. Unfortunately, our description doesn't tell us if it's wired traditionally, where it's just neck, bridge, middle bridge together, or if they went for the 3 volume controls. If we can believe these knobs, it says yes, it's wired traditionally, but who knows on custom spec dealer guitars. But anyway, speaking of the Music Zoo, they also came out with another interesting take. So we were just talking about staple pickups, but here's a staple on a standard with a humbucker in the bridge. That's like a super ultra modified 56 Les Paul, and it's been aged, it's got the black plastics, that's got a lot going on for it. It's historic spec, so of course it's going to be expensive at $62.99, but they nicknamed it the Golden Staple. And with a name like that, I bet it's got the gold back. Yes, it does. Okay, that's a pretty cool playful one. You've got your modern historic style headstock with Grover tuners, very light aging. I guess all things considered, if you put in the aging premium, it's really not that bad of a price. Although I think personally I just would have left it alone so we could have got it a little cheaper, but it does look pretty nice. However, these little rascals listed something else that was really cool, and I just decided to buy it because it needed documentation. The only hint I'll give you is it is a special, or perhaps a double special. The Music Zoo also just recently did a cheeky. So here's a Gibson custom shop made to measure 58 Dark Burst. Does that look familiar? Yeah, it's like a recreation of the Brazilian Dream, but without the Brazilian rosewood fretboard, so you don't have to pay $15,000 for it. Yeah, $6,000. It could definitely help bridge that gap if somebody doesn't necessarily care about it being a limited edition / series or where the rosewood came from. Although our truss rod cover does look painfully off-center. Then I suppose we could talk about this tonight. Reverb has changed. They keep changing stuff. I don't like it. So up here, we used to have our feed, but our feed is now gone. And it was like a whole week where it was just completely missing. They only had 2 icons up here. It was driving me nuts. Thankfully, I have these bookmarks up here on my browser so I could still get to it, but they've recently replaced it with favorites. So they've mixed your watch list with your saved searches. And then you've got your shops. And then at the very end is the feed. It's like they're trying to make this less important. And I get it, their feed isn't necessarily the best. You're always better off just searching for whatever you're looking for in newly listed because the feed is updated on a delay. But the reason why I use the feed is sometimes you catch price drops. Because recently Reverb no longer emails you when somebody drops the price by 10% or whatnot. So I find a lot of times I miss out on deals that I might have considered picking up. As a seller, I just find it not even worth cutting your price because it no longer gets the attraction that it used to. You might as well just wait for an offer. Another thing it looks like they changed is they've purged old listings. I used to have like over 1,000 guitars on my watch list. Now I have like 100, which is a real shame because I was saving some of those for like a rainy day type rock or not episode. And so I could always find these guitars again. But yeah, unfortunately, we just lost a whole bunch of stuff. I'd be curious to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on that. Are you affected by that change at all? And one last topic for tonight. I ran across this really beautiful 1980 Les Paul Custom. It's advertised as custom white / blonde. It's probably just a white that's aged. But I came down here and it's claiming the silver hardware is probably factory original. So I've taught this lesson before, but my show reaches new people all the time. So here is the easiest way to tell if you have a factory chrome model from the 70s or 80s. Chrome hardware was an option. It's a little bit more rare in the late 70s rather than the early 80s. But for a white Les Paul Custom, I don't think I have ever seen a factory stock chrome version. Out of this era anyways. And I always think it has a certain vibe to it. Like the gold works, but this just looks like super ultra aged all the way off gold, so it kind of gives it a different vibe. So looking here, our tailpiece is definitely not worn gold. It's chrome. Okay, we can tell this one's been refretted. So that's your first warning sign that, okay, if they're gonna refret something, they might not be too scared to change something else. But then I looked at the bracket for the pick guard. Something just doesn't quite look right with that bracket. It's not exactly the same shape that it should be. Next thing we can tell, the strap buttons have been replaced with Schallers. And then if we look at the headstock, those are not the original tuners. They might fit in the original footprint, but a Gibson one would have came with Gibson branded versions. They never shipped with one that had the Schaller branding. So those have been replaced. So we've got a lot of things lining up against this one. But this right here is what you should check if you want to see if chrome or gold hardware was original to the guitar. The stud within the body. Most times when people do the conversions, they don't bother to pull the stud and put a new one in. So if that is gold and everything else is chrome, you know it started life as gold. Another thing you could use to help is you need to look at your pickup covers. Have they ever been taken off? Now what's surprising here is they look pretty good. Like that one's probably been touched up, but they look good for the most part where somebody might not see it. But the next thing you want to check is the original solder joints to your pots, because if those have been disturbed, it could just be a completely different set, but that seriously needs cleaned out. And I also see something else, but we're out of time for today, and I don't want to dive into that can of worms. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's humorous episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.